I am so excited, and like I'm not lying. I'm so excited. This is my favorite subject matter, things to talk about, and it's what I've been learning difficultly for the past decades. I hope you guys had a great time, and if you have any questions or anything, let me know, and I hope everybody at home had a great time. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Michael Zinn, for filming for us. Thank you, Tranquility Within.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world it didn't exist.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I am
really
your
us.
host, Jesse Blaze Snyder, and with me, as always, is my hetero life mate, Michael Zinn. And today, I'm so excited because we've got a great guest on the show. It's Michael Zinn.
Oh, shit.
I've been forever, thinking just like, we only get, a little bit out of Michael here, there of his story. And he's got such a great story of his journey to consciousness. And I've been wanting to capture it on the show. So, we're going to do our typical little opening introduction thing. And then I'm going to make a big deal about interviewing him and, see if we can get some of the Michael Zinn story out here and get him to open his mouth just a little bit more than
should be good.
My big mouth allows for. So yeah, how's your week going there, Mike?
You know what? I had an absolutely crappy week.
Oh,
Yeah. No, actually, I had a couple of crappy days. I've been feeling a little bit disconnected, just kind of not myself, and trying to figure it out. And it ended up on a couple of days ago. Was it yesterday? I guess the day before. I got in a little car accident, a little fender bender.
Oh, that sucks. You all right?
I am totally all right. I was like not even going very fast. It's a long story. I was diverted off of the road by some thing that was happening. So they were pushing us into this industrial complex. I got lost. I couldn't figure out where I was. I was very frustrated and just wasn't paying attention and looking at my map, trying to figure out how to get out of there, and smashed into a truck, and it did a lot of damage to my car, unfortunately, and wasn't fun. But the next day I recovered. I had a nice photo session with Sarah Curley, one of our guests here at the show. She's been needing some new photos for her promotion, and I did some photos with her, and it was fun. That was one of the photos.
Beautiful. What a lovely picture you got there.
Yeah.
Oh, she looks great. You captured her very well.
Yes.
That's a
So,
cute
it was fun. I finally got to shoot again, which I haven't been doing, and it made me feel better. And then here I am today talking to you about what are we going to do tonight, and you suggest interviewing me, and everything just brightened up again. I'm feeling really good. So even though I had a rough week, it's I'm here in my happy place. So good to see you.
That's good. How
was your week?
Oh, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag for me. I had to say bye-bye to my babies over the weekend. I was in town seeing them, and it was good. I had a really nice time hanging with you. You and I had a little shamantic, moment after our show last week, which was really cool. And I, was, as we talk about like channeling, I was pulling some interesting information from the universe, and there was some really cool things that happened kind of continuing to build on that afterwards. I
yeah.
offered a Reiki session from our sunshine, our friend Sunshine, and
What's up,
you know, granted,
Sunshine?
a less traditional Reiki, you know, but she does like sort of
Violet flame. She
massage,
calls it the violet
yeah.
flame. Yeah.
And it was like just kind of was stirring up this whole line of questioning in me about the never-ending battle, and you know, as a comic book fan. And as somebody who wants to make the world a better place, you know, we're constantly looking at this sort of fight between good and evil. You know, like you're seeing the negative aspects of how things are going in reality, and you want to have some sort of effect on them.
Right.
But the lesson, I think, and really kind of the lesson of like comic books, when you really look at them over time, and you just see like Batman, like, has Gotham gotten any better? It's like, no, really. You know, this is a
You still have to go to work.
yeah. And I mean, and this is a made up place, you know, where Batman's showing up, and obviously, like, you know, writers are showing up to keep writing stories. But there is a really simple metaphor for the idea that, well, the never-ending battle, like, we're still going to war. You know, Joe Biden just was selling arms to Afghanistan or whatever. You know, just like these things are supposed to stop, and they keep perpetuating themselves.
Right.
And you know, anger back and forth on social media, and the right versus the left, and all these things. And I've had a lot of thoughts about these, you know, these kind of thoughts over the years of like, well, what do you do? How do you win? How do you actually lessen the amount of tension and aggravation that's going on in the world? And you know, and I can't say that I've completely come to.
I was going to say, what'd you come up with?
well, and I mean, and that's the thing. It's one of these things where the answer isn't very satisfying.
Okay.
You know, because the answer is like, I always kind of get it wrong when I try to repeat it, but there's this story about like this despot taking over this area, and like they go to kind of take over this monastery, and the monk won't do what they tell him to do, and he's kind of just like, well, if you got to kill me, kill me. And instead of that, they go to like tell the guy what's going on, and they're like, this guy's not doing the thing. Everybody else is doing the thing, but he won't do it. He just says, if we got to kill him, kill him. And you know, the king, the despot comes like to kind of like make his power grab towards this guy, and he's like, well, you know, I'm not going to do that, but if you got to kill me, kill me. And you know, and ultimately the guy doesn't do anything. You know, he lets him be. He leaves him be. And when you read that story, like every part of your being wants to go, well, that wouldn't happen. He would just kill him. But I'm not so sure anymore that he would just kill him. I think actually that is the answer, the kind of unsatisfying answer. It's when you are unwilling to fight, when you are unwilling to go to that place can't find you, even when it's looking for you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's looking for you, and it's threatening you, and it's telling you this is the situation. And you know, and the funny thing about it is, you know, because with like a lot of relationships, like in my like personal life, I've been trying to do that. Or you know, I say trying to do that, and these aren't the right words. I'm doing that, but over time, when I keep getting pressed upon, you know, sort of pressed for a more violent response or a more angry response, over time, the sort of frustration of like the ongoing debacle that I'm trying not to be a part of catches up to me on some level. And I find myself, hey, Sunshine, I find myself, you know, kind of falling into those patterns, letting myself be angry, you know, feel vengeance, you know, like, and by that, it's like, you know, somebody's like, you know, there's a good example. There was a guy who's a friend of my girlfriend's, and he had a girl who he really liked, and she wasn't ready for this relationship a while ago. Now, all of a sudden she's ready for this relationship, and he's like, fuck her. She's not gonna get the relationship right now. You know, this is vengeance. You know, I'm holding on to this anger,
right,
because you didn't do the thing at the time, and I wasn't able to maintain my composure about the long-term game plan of I'm taking the high road and I love you, and whatever else.
Right,
And now
right,
here
right.
you are back, and you're like, oh, you think you could just
Well,
walk back
vengeance
into my
and
life
ego
now?
also. Yeah, ego, a little
Yeah.
ego. Yeah.
And there's like, and to some degree, there's a little bit of almost like society making me feel weak if I don't defend myself on some level.
Hmm.
Like, you're not going to defend yourself. Like, there's like a little voice in my head that's like, look what they've done. Like, you must defend yourself.
Right,
Like,
right, 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 right.
you're supposed to defend yourself.
But I
But
guess it depends on the vibration. You know what I mean? Are you going to match
well,
that vibration?
well, exactly.
You know?
But that sort of like idea that if I don't defend myself, I'm being weak. I'm letting people walk all over me. That kind of thing. Like
Right.
that is, I guess, this vibration that really is what needs to be squashed, within all of us who are trying to do better today than we did yesterday. Of like, I don't want this to be a fight. I don't want to be engaged in these negative, outcomes and whatever else. I want things to be nice. And, and even if you can't be nice right now, that doesn't change anything about what I want and, and where I'm coming from. And I can't allow your frustration, even if it lasts for forever. Because that, I guess, sort of ends up being like what I'm coming up against. It's like I thought that if I kept on keeping on, like let's say this, I allotted for 10 months of positive, not responding to anger or or righteous words in my direction. 10 months, don't worry. But after 10 months, they're going to drop off. They're going to stop showing up the way
Right.
they were. And then after 10 months, they're still doing it. And and now I'm going, oh, wait a second, you just reached my 10-month limit.
Right.
Now I'm going to revert back to the vengeful, angry, I need to defend myself.
But then now you're introducing expectations on your part.
Absolutely. But I think because of and I say this as, for everybody who will, I'm sure, be dealing with it in one way or another as time goes on.
Yeah.
You don't realize, I don't think, that you're doing that.
Right.
I didn't say it's going to be 10 months. I said, I'm going to take the high road in this situation, and I'm going to try to just not be a part of this negativity, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to be nice. I have a person in particular, who's been like, I'm just going to keep being nice. And I finally have gotten to a point recently where I started saying out loud, like, F that person. And I don't care. And like they can go F themselves. And
is it somebody you could remove from your life, or you have to deal with that person?
I on whatever level I have to deal with that person, but I could remove them in various ways, but that isn't what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do from the beginning was, no matter what the case was, I wanted it to be nice.
Right.
So
but you can only control yourself,
Exactly. I can only control myself. And because it's gone on so long of their behavior not changing or adjusting based on my behavior, it finally clicked into a new point for me of frustration.
Right.
And so that's been a real bit, of this is aggravating. I found myself saying to Julie when I was talking to her about some of these sounds, that I hated myself. And I was saying I hate myself because I on whatever level I was asking myself to play the game of life on a certain level and be a certain kind of man, and feeling myself be pulled down by these feelings is disappointing me. At the same time, it's just disappointing what I'm having to deal with, and I'm more sort of hurt and can't take anymore. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to take this in this way, and it's going to feel better, because it feels better to stand up for yourself. It does feel better to stand up for yourself. And that's really the thing. I think it made me feel better in the moment to be like, fuck this person and fuck this situation, and I'm not dealing with this like this anymore. But at the same time, it really was just the complete deconstruction of everything that I wanted and what I wanted for myself and what I still want for myself. And as frustrating as it is, it just sort of made me just kind of come back around to well, I really got to rethink this whole taking the high road thing with all of these caveats that I've obviously put upon it of like, I'm going to take the high road unless it takes this long. I'm going to take the high road unless they can't start to adjust or lessen how they're treating me.
You just got to commit. You're taking the high road regardless of the,
exactly. And I think that's that's the answer
right.
with these, these Batman, Batman's he's got to do something else. He's got to not be a part of the thing.
Right. A lot, we're getting a lot of great comments. Sunshine says that's your lesson. Be grateful for them showing you what you don't want, and then wish them well. And earlier,
well said, Sunshine.
Yes, earlier you were talking, and Taylor said you were talking about what's right to do, and Taylor said what will benefit the most people is what she likes to ask herself, which I think is a great.
Well, you know what, Taylor? It's very nice. You're very sweet. You're just like me, and that tends to be the kind of thing that I would say. What will benefit the most people? But what will benefit the most people? When you are really being very conscious and kind.
Well, you got to be a part of those people.
Yeah, it's got to be. You got to be included in those people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we think like that, we end up just kind of writing ourselves right off the map because, well, I can make a quick little adjustment and and then there's like an answer where if I just move out of the way, there's an answer that does fit everybody else. But that's not, it's got to be the answer that is also reasonable to you, on some level.
Well, you're part of everybody, right? You're a part of everybody.
Yeah,
it's not everybody else. It's everybody.
I went to my oral surgeon today, who's because I had my wisdom teeth taken out, and and I realized so much of my little lesson of like having to kind of go back to see him multiple times, even though how he's been kind of like pushing me out the door, like he's seen me enough times, even though I've been having a lot of trouble, and he's not like he wasn't really acknowledging it properly, but. It was a proper amount of being there. Yes, I needed to be seen. I needed some help. And I can't let him trying to push me out the door and go, I've seen you plenty of times.
Right. Well, you said it was making you feel like you were being too pushy or pussy.
I was like asking for too much, or like I was being a hypochondriac or something like that. I had a sinus infection and I had two dry sockets, and and these things weren't being addressed properly the first time. And it's not like I need to go in there, and thankfully I didn't, and be a dick back to him or something and be like, which I didn't do. But it was a reasonable thing for me to go back and to have more questions and to ask and to get some, to say, hey, will you look in my mouth, please? Like, tell me what's going on here. Tell me that it is okay. Tell me that I am progressing. Give me an idea what's going on. So I went and I did that. And that's like that middle ground bit.
And what happened? How was your mouth doing?
I mean, I'm all right. Right before the show started, I started getting some weird nerve pain in my mouth, which wasn't awesome. But seemingly getting better. I was dealing with like a smell from a sinus infection, and it does seem to be going away and getting better. And I have a strong intuition that I'm on the mend, and hopefully it won't take too long for
right. Well, other than the agitation, you seem better.
Yeah,
a little agitated, but you seem better.
And he pointed out to me, today in the appointment that the membrane between my gums on one side and the sinuses, it's not as strong as the other side. The other side has like bone, and this side doesn't really have that same amount of bone that's in between the one thing and the other thing. So that it's a little easier between these two things for me to get like a sinus infection, gum infection, like in the connection to these bits. So it did kind of explain a little bit what I was dealing with and why some of my problems were a little bit more, because my wisdom teeth were so impacted. It was very like, they were really pressed in, especially on one side. They were really high up and really pressed in. But, standing up for myself was as little as just sort of continuing to exist, kind of meekly and, not going away. It was really, that guy going, well, that's all well and good. You're going to kill me, but like, I'm still here. And no, I'm not going to do that, as kindly as you can. So, so that was really interesting to me, to go down that little journey. And, I think it ties into a lot of what we ended up talking about on the night of after we did the show last week, and me and Michael had a powwow, and we were talking about two things essentially, and they get down to similar things. It was about cats and about sort of people, how the universe is creating itself through the multiple consciousnesses that are all sort of equal in their power on whatever level. And essentially the message that was coming through to me really strong was, if you're wibbly wobbly about what you believe and what you think, the collective consciousness is going to decide for you. And so it's not arrogance to be confident and have belief in what you do, because you're taking the power within you and you're giving it to your own existence, your own life. But the moment you're like, oh, well, I don't know if I deserve that, and well, then now it goes to the scoreboard. What does mom and dad have to say? What do the siblings have to say? What does society have to say? And at the end of the day, most of these people are kind of negative about these things and what they believe, and and there's so much like put into these things, and I mean, these are all like loosely related. But the other thing about cats, and that these cats are really special, because while people think that they're very sort of like cats are depicted as arrogant oftentimes, really cats are just sort of honest. They're non-prejudiced. And a cat's kind of just as quick to cuddle you and give you purrs as it is to be aggravated with you for a minute, and then later, okay, we're cool now. A cat's very sort of like middle of the like, it's very neutral, and it's so my cat's coming to see me. See everybody say. But a cat's very neutral in it's not holding a grudge about what happened a minute ago, and and it's really kind of, its perspective is ever shifting to the moment. It's living in the now, and and if we were living more in the now and making choices for ourselves based on our understanding that we are a portion of God and blah blah blah, everything that we want can be ours, and there's nothing really standing in the way other than us and things that we might think, or things that other people might think, the moment we give up control of our choice because of our prejudices and our preconceptions and the things that we're more focused on, than the fact that we're just equally a piece of God, you and me. It's all the same, and what we say and think goes, and everything's okay, for us to believe in ourselves and believe that we can achieve, believe that we can make money, all these things, the laws of attraction, as we get into or the law of creation, it's like there's nothing keeping you from this. It's just understanding that everything's one and everything's a mind, and and realizing that there's various momentums, the momentums of the ways we feel about things that are kicking into what's going on. And it all, even though it's all a real big complex kind of stew of things, they do all seem to really speak to me at once, about, well, do you want to take that high road? And what that high road really is about being meek, and being meek isn't the way that it's been depicted. Being meek is this: I'm here and I love and I believe, and I'm this person, and I want it to be like this. No, I can't do that. Yes, I can do this. And not, oh, I'm angry because of yesterday, and well, 2 days ago you showed up like this, and you were like, well, okay, so now I'm basing all of my decisions on things happening over time, and how much pressure that's putting on me. Like, no, well, the idea is that we want to pull ourselves off of that time. We want to pull ourselves off that wheel, off that measurement, and be kind of showing up like a cat, where we're just.
Angela says, "Not mine. My cat will walk up and stick his butt in my face." I think a lot of cats do that. But then,
yeah, but then he'll go and purr with you. That's what I'm saying.
Anytime I'm stressed, they cuddle me.
That's what I'm saying, Angela. See, you just proved my point. Your cat is literally just. He's going with the vibration. He's going with the vibration. I came in the other day, and I was having like a bit of a bad day, and I think I legit like picked up a bad vibe. And Ozzy went like, "Rap, rap, rap." He was like, "Get the hell away from me." And I went, I wonder if like I have a bad vibe or something, because Ozzy usually gives me like all this love, and I like did like this little like aura clearing thing for myself, and I literally felt a little shift in my energy, and then just a couple minutes later, Ozzy's rubbing up on me,
Right.
you know, and that's the thing. He was like, nope, I see something I don't like. I'm sensitive to it. I don't like it. Go away. And, you know, and being able to defend ourselves in proper measure without added weight of yesterday. Like, you know, it's like I just had a little bit of a decent disagreement with my ex-wife, and I was really kind of disappointed in myself just because I wasn't planning on having the disagreement. Like it just sort of happened. Like it,
Right.
like, so like, I was like, what am I doing? Like bringing up all those things, like, you know, I'd already told myself I wasn't planning on bringing up those things.
Right.
And then
right.
like in an instance, all of a sudden it like made sense for me to bring up some things that like, they don't matter. They're, you know, they're from the, you know, as I think Julie said to me afterwards, she was like, you guys are arguing about stuff that doesn't really matter anymore. Like,
Right.
it's like silly, you know. It's like all that matters is your kids and making life, you know, good for them, and having things be nice between you. And she's absolutely right. Like but I didn't have like a conscious like bring it up, but it's that same thing of like, oh man, you know, I was collecting little pieces of like throughout time. I was remembering this and I was remembering this. I was remembering this. I was holding on to this and holding on to this. And, you know, all these things kind of spurred together and became a giant box. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, so I think that is the answer, you know, is just as unappealing as it may seem. You know, we have to wrap our heads around the appealingness of being a little meek and not needing that final word or the vengeance on any level or to be right. You know, if our girlfriend comes back, you know, when we're sitting there single waiting for him a year later, we can't be mad, or we're just cutting our own nose off to spite our face when this was the person that we wanted. And here we go, you know, like it's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So
again, that kind of that makes me feel like you're partially describing ego as well, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
it's so
part
funny.
of what makes people. That's part of what makes people behave in those ways, you know.
Yeah, well, and I think everybody, you know, a lot of people, I mean, at least I did, when people say ego, I would always get so sort of like defensive because I'd be like, no, it's not about that. Like, I'm like, my ego aside, but getting hurt, that's your ego. That's your own, my ego's hurt. You know, like I see you behaving out of your ego and I want my ego to be placated so I feel better. It's not just like taking the high road to like allow that trespass. It's about no longer coming from this place of ego where you can be hurt,
right?
And you can, and it can build up how much hurt you have inside you. And you know, so I guess that's my lesson of the week, which is it's a hard one. It's very kind of hollow and strange, and it really kind of leaves you feeling strange. You're like, okay.
I think the energy has been a little cold and a little harsh.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. Julie and I have been talking about that a little bit too. Is every single time we've had like a weird thing and being like, "Oh, talk to this person." They've been having a weird time too.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember she was out at night on some time, the same time, and she had some really crazy night. And everybody was weird, and there was all sorts of weird stuff going on. She's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "That's weird. I had a weird night too." So, yeah, there's definitely been something in the air, and it's. A lot of these real lessons, you know, these really powerful lessons, they do leave you a little like, you know, and then it's kind of left to you to untie the knots and figure out your new way forward. And I guess right now, you know, for me, I'm like trying to figure out my new way forward, which I guess seems obvious, or it is obvious. It's just a matter of feeling okay about it and like going, yeah, I know what I see, I know what I learned here. And I don't want to do that anymore. So let me do a quick introduction for our guest, who I'm going to be bringing onto the show in just a moment. You maybe know him, maybe like him, maybe you've heard of the incredible photographer that is Michael Zinn. He does a great live stream show called the Livestream of Consciousness with a good friend of his, Jesse Blaze Snyder. And he's you know, he's a great person, just in general when it comes to creating space for other people to show their greatness. It's one of his great strengths, and his photos speak for themselves. He's been able to get the best out of thousands of people who he's photographed, and and he's somebody who really is community oriented and is always thinking about others, the other creative people, and likes so often is putting others before himself. And I just wanted to bring him on the show to give him an opportunity to put himself out there in the forefront and talk about his fabulous journey, which I know a lot about because I know him very well. We've been friends for a long time, but I don't think that enough of you guys probably know the full extent to the incredible spiritual journey of Michael Zinn. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Michael Zincredible Zinn.
Hold on, wait. Let me. Hey!
Hey, how's it going, Michael? Sorry, I hope you weren't waiting back there for too long. Me and my friend
It's
Michael
all
were
good.
talking.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
That
my
was
friend.
awesome. Thank you so much. That was really flattering. And I'm glad I was recording that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I will say this, in case I've never said it on air. I don't think much of there's a lot of photographers in this world. I don't think much of singers. I don't think of myself as a singer. And I think everybody can sing. Everybody can take a photo. There's a real small group of people who sing, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that singer. There's a very, very small group of people who take photos, and I'm like, oh my God, have you seen their photos? And Michael is one of them. He's really not only doing creative things with the medium, he's always just really thinking outside the box, and has always been right at the forefront of technology and what can be done, and engaging in it, and being inspired by the creativity that comes with some of these cool technology leaps that happen in photography, but also figuring out ways to do photos in interesting ways. If you've never explored his Facebook page, he does these things called the human mandala, where he'll take a single image and then he'll kind of what do you call that when you lay it out in a circle?
Human dollar. I call it human dollar because it's like a mandala, but it's made of a human.
They are so beautiful, and it's just such another level to his photography. But larger than that, it's just his images. Most photographers are as good as their actors. They're as good as the person who they're taking photos of. And Michael just always manages, even when I know that he's got somebody who's not a very good person who he's taking photos of, and I just see him get great stuff out of them. And I really believe that it's a part of the little magic of ability that he has to create space for people where they feel comfortable and they feel like they can express themselves. And he really is an incredible photographer. And I know I've said that to you before, but
this is awesome. Can we do this more often? Can I be?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I want to do it. It's been in my mind. And when we had our one of our friends not be able to do the show, I said, let's interview Michael.
It's really funny. I had a similar experience today, and I think that the energy it's definitely connected. But our friend Sunshine, she's such a happy presence. You know what I mean? She's manifested herself as sunshine, so she walks into a room and brightens the room. And I think everybody just always assumes she's doing great. So today I was like, "Hey, Sunshine, how are you doing? Does anybody ever ask you how you're doing?" And she appreciated it. And I think that's kind of come back to me with this whole thing. And I love what you're saying, dude. I really appreciate
that is true, man. And that's been something that's, to a certain degree been the bane of my existence. When you project yourself a certain way, and not even that,
people assume you're always great.
Yeah. People always just assume that I didn't need any help because they thought that I was helped, that I had help, and I needed help in comic books. I like anybody else, if you want to progress in a business, you need people to get your back. And sometimes when you decide to try to take on the Mr. Positivity, I've got tattooed on my arm, positive mental attitude. Well, they think, well, he's got it all. Well, yeah, but I'm doing that because it's the Robin Williams thing. It's I'm projecting myself here in this place of positivity because I know how terrible it is to feel anything less than that.
Right.
And, I don't want other people to have to suffer. So I'm going to try to do my best to be a part of the solution. But, sometimes you're a part of the solution and, you get left behind.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, Michael, I have to ask you the question that we ask everybody here on the live stream of consciousness. What is consciousness to you?
What is consciousness to me? That is the best question. I love that question. I think for me, the best description I can give is I kind of bite it from Eckhart Tolle, which is kind of being aware of the I behind the I. So, when you start to think about
That's
yourself,
lovely.
yeah, when you start to think about yourself and you're saying, oh, I'm too much this or I'm too much that. Well, who's saying that? There's somebody who's making that judgment, and being aware that that's the real you. You know what I mean? And that you can make the decisions. I guess I don't want to get into lessons, but consciousness is, I think, having that awareness that there's something deeper inside you and there's something bigger outside of you, and it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really lovely a lovely answer to the question. I think there's something similar in a book, one of my early books of enlightening my whole family. There was three books that were really important to us: The Field,
Hmm.
Many Lives, Many Masters, and a book called The Power of Now. And
Hmm.
the beginning of The
That's
Power
Eckhart
of
Tolle.
Now.
Yeah,
Oh, is it Power of Now is by
that's
Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
that's
exactly.
Eckhart Tolle.
So no wonder I'm connected to it. And he said
Yeah.
something to the effect of, at some point he was saying like, I can't live with
I
myself.
can't live with myself.
And he was like, who is this that I can't live with?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
like,
Who's
what
saying
is
that?
this?
Who's
Who
saying that?
said
Who
that?
can't you live with?
Who's not living with who? What? Like,
Exactly.
which is, I mean, it's really such a great, when you put it
It's
into those
amazing.
perspectives, you
No,
go,
it's
wait a
but
second,
yeah.
who's talking to who?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome, and it's so funny because as I was asking you, I just couldn't help but kind of ask myself, like, because we've asked this question of people so many times, and I was just like, that's interesting that I'm asking him this question. Like, I don't even know what I would
What your
say.
own answer is.
Yeah, and I a really like quick sort of like impression of like not what I might say, but at least what I felt kind of came to my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was similar in meaning, but not as beautiful as what you were pulling from. Just sort of that consciousness of like sort of like the who watches the watcher. I guess maybe is a pretty is a more pretty way of saying it, but of like that like conscious of consciousness. like,
Right, right, right.
like consciousness is being aware of you having the ability to be aware. Like, you know what I mean?
How do you
It's
express
like,
that? Right, right.
which is totally that Eckhart Tolle, sort of like, who's
Yeah,
talking here? Who am
yeah.
I? Who's it that I can't get along with? Well, that's a
Totally.
great answer. Thank you for giving it. So as we say to everybody here, we're trying to collect all of these stories of people going from unconsciousness to consciousness so that we can get them all together and we can show to the world how many different ways there are to pet the cat. And we would love to hear the long version of how Michael Zinn went from being an unconscious Michael Zinn to being the conscious Michael Zinn that we all know and love.
Awesome. Well, I mean, there's a few things. Initially, I was like, wow, what am I going to say? What was my trauma? Because a lot of the stories we hear involve trauma. Something that somebody went through, and I'm like, I don't feel like I've had that kind of trauma in my life, and then I started thinking about life and how I've become who I am. Um, and was there a specific moment? I don't know if there was one specific moment. I think there were a couple of things I can recognize
Wait a
that
second. Aren't
happened.
you the Michael Zinn that said, that said,
You got something written down? What are you looking
yeah,
at?
you said, we are the live stream of consciousness. Everybody matters and can get a turn. Earlier
Yeah,
today, as we were looking for another guest.
yeah.
So what's, you don't need to have trauma. You don't have to bring trauma into the
No,
equation.
no, yeah, no,
It's
I know,
just
but I
about
think
your journey.
right, but I think a lot of the stories that we've heard,
Yeah.
involved that, and then like it was the healing of the trauma that brought in the light.
Yeah.
For me, so for me, what I thought about was this: there was a couple of moments. that previous to those moments, I had lived a certain way. I think I guess I would best describe it as I lived like the mainstream, just kind of under this pattern of what you had to be and what you had to do and how you had to think, you know. Um, Obviously, there was much more under that the whole time, but I started to peel back the layers. I think that we're conditioned, and you have to peel back the layers to attain that consciousness. So around 2011, I was dating this girl, Janine Maloney. Hello, Janine. And she was a makeup artist, and we were just having a casual conversation. I had this idea in my head. I've always been a creative kind of guy and love to create stuff and have these wacky ideas. And it was 2011, and 2012 was coming up, and there were all these, there was all these theories that the prophecies that the world was going to end in 2012. So I was like,
Yeah, I remember that was an interesting time.
so yeah, so I said to Janine, I said, what's going to happen to the Sports Illustrated swimwear calendar? Like, if the world ends. And it just got me thinking, and of Victoria's Secret calendar and the Sports Illustrated calendar. And I was like, I'm going to make a calendar. I'm going to call it Women of Armageddon. And it's going to be a spoof, and it's going to show these women who still have their hair and makeup done, but they look like Mad Max. So the vision in my head was a combination of
I
Mad
never
Max.
knew that was such a practical genesis of an idea. You're like, the world's coming to an end. What's going to happen to the swimsuit catalog?
That was it. So so actually I grabbed some images. So this was the original calendar, and you can see some of the conceptual stuff that's going on there, different like outfits and stuff like that. And my original idea was kind of had a very surrealistic feel to it, like 300, the movie 300, where it was kind of, you couldn't tell if it was illustrated or real or fake or CGI or whatever. So I did a lot of the stuff on green screen. But the thing about the moment that happened with this experience was I came up with the concept. It was just kind of off the tip of my hat, and Janine was like, well, let's do it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, I know some girls who do the haunts every year. They would love to get dressed up. I do makeup. Like, let's do it. And this was like November of 2011. So I didn't have a lot of time. So we were in Arizona at the time, I think, visiting my parents. We got home, and she made some calls, and her friends were totally into it. And they brought so much to the table that this idea that was just a conversation came to life organically. All of a sudden, like, it had an amazing life to it. And we took some pictures. I got 12 different girls together. Amazingly, somehow by January 1st, I had the calendar together. And the moment that was really spiritual for me was the moment that it arrived at my house. So I had sent it out to get it printed.
A physical calendar.
The physical calendar came to my house.
The best part of making something.
I opened up the box and I pulled out the calendar. I was holding this, what you're looking at right here, in my hands. And how your whole life people say things to you like that cliche, you could do anything you set your mind to. And it's so freaking abstract. It's like, yeah, I know, whatever. And there's no meaning to it. But I was holding that meaning in my hand. It was like, holy shit. I set my mind to this. It came to life. Here it is. And that just basically put me in a great place as far as understanding myself and my creativity, and being able to get into being a photographer and show that I wasn't looking to exploit women, but I was looking to empower women. So that kind of was a good experience for me, and put me in a good place.
I'm sure the girls had a great time.
Everybody loved it. And like I said, everybody brought so much to the table that I just couldn't believe how it was just the seed of an idea, and it came to life so organically. And so there was so much energy. Like, everybody brought energy to the project. Some of those girls, let me see if I can point with the mouse. So you see these weapons that the girls have.
Uh-huh.
Some of these girls, their boyfriends were prop makers for the haunted houses. So they
Oh.
showed up and they had like these Gatling guns and these like amazing, amazing props, and just like I said, brought so much to it. I do have a couple of the other ones here just to kind of show the genesis of it. In 2013, I took the idea off of green screen and started to take it onto location. So I was able to really up my level of photography, up what was happening. I found some amazing locations. We shot a lot of that year at Kings Park Psych Center here on Long Island.
So
which-
essentially, you decided that the Sports Illustrated it's never going to go away. The swimsuit edition will always be there. Zombie
Exactly.
apocalypse be damned.
This is just the evolution of the Sports Illustrated swimwear calendar. You know, once the world ends.
So when you got like this, this sort of like injection of sort of confidence and faith that that things could be done and that there were more possibilities at hand, how did that change you and make you more conscious?
Well, I finally understood the power of some of those things that people tell you all the time, the power of believing in yourself. For me, and I don't think it was that moment that I like achieved self-love, because for me, self-love is such an important part of being conscious, and being happy. Um, and I don't think that was necessarily the moment, but that was certainly a step towards it. The other part of that is my relationship with Janine, who is an amazing, amazing person. She is living in New Mexico now. She's a makeup artist in the union for Hollywood, and she's gone on to do makeup for Clint Eastwood and like some huge names. And what's the guy's name? The professor from Back to the Future.
Jock Brown,
Yeah, she's done makeup with him. I mean, she's really gone on to do some amazing things. And Christopher Lloyd, yes. And the thing, okay, so the spiritual part of that was my relationship with her was amazing as creative partners. It wasn't so amazing as romantic partners. And it had to come to an end, and it was devastating. I mean, it was devastating for both of us. And I think that really was the beginning of changing my life in the way that I realized that my relationships that I was having, not just with women, but my relationships with women were all very important. Every relationship I would have, I realized, I was learning something, especially when that relationship would end, and you would go through that trauma, right? I mean, that's kind of a trauma. So I ended my relationship with her. She moved out to New Mexico. And then the next event that happened that was kind of spiritual for me, and this was after we did this calendar. We did this in 2012 to come out for 2013. She left in like right at the beginning of 2013, and then 3 months later, my apartment burned down.
Oh,
So you understand that.
yeah.
That was traumatic. I was away in Vegas doing a trade show for some other stuff, and I got a phone call. Your apartment's on fire. The fire department's here. I had to fly back the next day to a pile of ashes, basically, and I lost everything. I mean, I lost everything. It was actually I lost everything except my cat. My cat had amazingly survived the fire. She had gone into the bedroom, which I had glass doors out to an area, and that's where the fire department
Suki?
came in. Suki.
Suki survived. I love Suki. I love Michael's cat.
Suki
Me and
survived
Suki
the
like
fire.
this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but that was traumatic in a lot of ways. I do feel like it was karmically connected to me breaking up with Janine. Because I think I had hurt her a little bit more than I was hurt, but later, I think later on, I realized how much I had really lost in that connection. I started to realize how important the human connection was in relationships. And again, especially as you lose those relationships, I think that's when you kind of learn the lessons that you're supposed to learn, right? Or sometimes it's in those relationships you're learning those lessons, right?
Yeah.
But if I look back on my romantic relationships since then, I can see myself growing with each one of those. um, and that is respecting myself more, respecting my partner more, understanding those things just a little bit more each time, until the current day, which I don't feel like I'm done by any means growing, but my relationship with myself allowed me to get into a romantic relationship that I feel more comfortable with than I've ever felt. I mean, my current relationship, I don't think I've ever felt like I could truly be myself, around my significant other. There was always this kind of like relationship, Michael, that was like there. And then when I was not in the same room with that person, I can be, kind of let my breath out a little bit. And not that I think I was doing that intentionally. I don't think I was, but I realized that when it wasn't there, when I wasn't having to let my breath out, when I was
Well,
just
that's
like, oh,
the consciousness and unconsciousness.
yeah,
Wait a second. Now that I'm taking a more conscious look at my behavior here, I am behaving very stilted and in this way and that way. Because that's it. That's it. When you start to go separate the two minds and go, oh, let me look at what's going on
right,
down
right,
here, and then you start
right.
going, I don't
Yeah.
love how this is behaving.
Right. Exactly. So I think, each relationship I had, I was able to take away something that showed me how much control I had of my life. How Not how much control I had of my life, but how all of the decisions that I would make would affect me. And it helped me to make more intentional decisions. You know what I mean? Like, be much more intentional. So I've told the story here on the live stream of the simplest thing, and these are little exercises in Zen philosophies that, man, they just, I think about these simplest things and I'm like, that thing that just did wonders for me. So the story that I told you about, when someone says to you, hey man, how's it going, right? The simplest interaction that you're having with somebody. And how do you answer that question? Well, I would say most of the time people are like, I'm okay, or I'm getting by, I can't complain. It's kind of this on the low end vibration, like, and somebody would say to me, I would say, hey, how you doing? And they would say, oh, I'm awesome. And there was this energy behind it that they were transferring to me. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, and I noticed that there was intention behind it. I started to intentionally answer that question that way and give that energy and get that energy back. So, I mean, I know I'm rushing through this story, and probably because I've told it before, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, I made the intentional decision to be aware of the energy that I was giving to somebody in a conversation. And listen, nobody's perfect. I'm sure there are moments where that ego kicks in and I'm not so much aware of that energy, but the more that you're aware of that energy, the better off you are, because you're consciously putting in good energy. You're consciously trying to make the situation better. I always say, if people went into a situation looking for what they could bring to that situation instead of what they can get out of that situation, all situations would be better. Right? And so, even like unintentionally, when you go to a concert, you think your intention is to get something out of that, but your intention is to enjoy that music and to enjoy what it is. And that's why when you walk into a concert, it's evident, you feel that energy, right? When you walk into an arena and everybody's so excited about what's about to happen, and when the musicians are on, you're feeling that energy. That's a collective, amazing, intentional energy.
Yeah,
um,
it's really cool. it's the national anthem in front of the baseball game or the football game, and like that's where it gets even distilled, more. And you as soon as you hear it come out, you're like, oh, I know what's about to happen. If you play football or you play a sport, you're like, oh, I'm going to be going out and I'm going to get to play my game in a little bit. As a fan of Twisted Sister, they would play the song "It's a Long Way to the Top" by AC/DC before they would go on. So the song would start to play, and basically the house music would cut, and then you'd hear that song hit the stereo. And then towards the end of the song, you'd hear the bass warming up and the guitar warming up, because somewhere towards the very end of that song, they were going to start their opening song. And to this day, when I hear that song, I just start getting all
feel
excited.
That energy. Yeah.
I feel that the show's about to start. It's about to begin, because all of this energy and meaning gets programmed in to that, that thing.
Right.
So to get a little more out of you, I know that you're a headbanger. You grew up playing in rock bands and rock music, and I know that for you there was a bit of a changeover where nowadays you largely you're listening to sort of ambient music and things that are just
right.
So when was that change for you? When did you start to make those sorts of adjustments and meditate, to practice things that were a little bit more Eastern medicine than Western, and to transition from being a more traditional American boy to being somebody who was open to other, kind of foreign and ancient concepts?
It feels like it's been a while, but it may not be. I mean, I know over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, I've met a lot of and hung out with a lot of spiritual people and spiritual things. So, learning meditation with Stephen Durante, who's one of our guests, kirtan with Hardy, experiencing these things. Christopher Allan, who's one of our guests, who's a psychic medium, kind of experiencing those people and hanging around them,
I kind of know the answer to this, but I was going to say it for you. So what you're kind of saying is that when you changed your vibration, you began to attract in a whole new world of sort of more conscious.
Absolutely.
People, and
Absolutely.
then, it started growing and spitballing from there.
Yeah, I think again, it's like, what is consciousness? It's being aware of energy and how important that is. And once you're aware of energy, you see how you generate energy, you see how other people generate energy, you see how energy affects every situation. And I think, it just becomes a part of your being, to almost just try to I don't want to say control that energy, but just being aware of it, I think, makes you a better person. You know what I mean? Because when you're aware of the energy that you're putting out, why would you put out angry energy or fear energy? These things that are very prominent out there in the world. It's I guess it's easy to fall into that when that's what you're surrounded with. But if you're aware of it, and I think that's where all of this conspiracy theory stuff comes from. It's people who are aware of the alternative to what is going on in the mainstream vibration.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I think, a lot of sort of hopeful behavior, and by that I mean, you hope you're doing right, you think you might be doing right, but it's when you start to know, okay, I know what I'm doing now, and because I'm more consciously aware of what I'm doing, what my impact is, I think when people are unconscious, there's just a lot of fear of am I having the effect that I want to have? Are people hearing these words the right way, or seeing this energy the right way? Right. And then and the answer isn't always yes, they are. But the moment you start to be able to actually tell how things are coming across, how you're coming across, what you're actually doing, what you're actually achieving, and have a modicum of reasonable perspective on yourself, that's huge, because once you have a perspective on yourself, you can start to adjust the perspective up or down, or adjust it in whatever direction. But when you're just kind of going, I don't know, I hope that one of these things is going to work, it's just,
that's right.
It's a crapshoot. You don't really you don't really understand why things are working or why
Right.
things aren't working. And then as you become more conscious on that level, it's way
Right.
easier to sort of
There's,
assess.
I mean, there's a couple of other things that I definitely wanted to talk about, like specific concepts, gratitude, and things like
Let's
that.
get into it. Gratitude.
But before I do, I want to give gratitude to our viewers. I see so much going on in the chat. I see Steve Sage. Thank you, Steve. Michael has grown amazingly. Yeah, Steve's one of my good friends. He's been around for a while. He's seen me. He was there when I did the Women of Armageddon. He's seen me go through these relationships that I'm talking about and kind of grow from each one. I'm imagining he could probably.
Angela sees you meditating in the nude, listening to Kenny G. I added in the nude.
Yes, you did. Steve is saying the energy that you put out there is what you get back. These are such simple concepts. I think that if more people just, again, would put a little bit of awareness to and say, yeah, you know what? If I'm a dick, I'm going to meet a lot of dicks. You know what I mean? I'm going to get a lot of people going to treat me like a dick if I'm a dick. I mean, come on. It's the simplest thing. So, I mentioned gratitude. I think there are a couple of elements that, I intentionally put into my life that make it better. And gratitude is one of them. It's hard. I think previous to kind of being aware, you know, in retrospect, I'm now more aware of people that I hung out with that didn't have gratitude. You can tell they were miserable. They just, hey man, how you doing? Oh, it's Monday. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's another Monday that you're fucking alive. I know that's a cliche to say, but like, if I had to choose which response I want, oh, it's Monday, or I'm happy to be alive, I know what I'm going to choose because I know where it's going to lead me. You know what I mean? I know what's going to come after that. If I'm going into Monday thinking, oh, it's Monday, Monday's going to suck.
Where do you think that your, I mean, just for me personally, gratitude was sort of a little elusive. I had built up a ball of things that I was upset about, and then when it sort of clicked for me, I literally went, "Oh my goodness! Like I'm ungrateful. Like I
Mm.
I haven't been grateful, and I I am grateful now, and I'm gonna be grateful from now on."
Yeah, I don't think
An aha moment, or was it just sort of a slow budding
I
like?
think it was a slow budding thing, and I think it was part of what I was talking about, like taking a little bit away from each relationship. I think I was grateful a little bit more and more as I was, growing. I would say, wow, you know, I, I I'm not with that person anymore, but I'm really glad that we spent time together. I learned a lot from that person. You know what I mean? And it was interesting. I remember when I was younger, some of my relationships, I would end the relationship, and the person that I ended the relationship with would end up in a much better place in life. And I would always be like, well, that's fucked up. But then I started to realize that it was whatever I gave them that helped them get to that point in life. Not that I got them to that point in life, but they were
But
going
there
along
was
in
some
their
sort of
path.
chemical reaction that, and that was
Whatever,
good.
yeah, whatever happened, whatever lesson they learned from me enabled them to get to their better place. I mean, and I was grateful for that. As odd as that may seem. um yeah, I mean, gratitude is, I think it's hard, and again, I think it's hard because of conditioning. I think that, you know i- it's just amazing to look at life as it was, if and I'm sure if you look back at life too and just see how people treat things. And I mean, I don't want to say like cancel culture stuff, because Archie Bunker was one of my favorite things. It's hysterical, it's comedy. But it's a representation of kind of like, well, that's just the way it is, and people, the way people treat each other. And I think that, for me and for you, I'm sure love is the answer, right? I mean, what can be better than people getting along? The energy that you feel when people are like having issues with other people, you feel that energy. The energy that you feel when people are loving other people, you feel that energy. I mean, what feels better, right?
You
Which
know,
one?
it's funny. You know, Shakespeare famously said, "If you want an audience, start a fight." But I think if you start an orgy, you probably get like just as much of an audience as like. I mean, just being honest, like, right? It's like, whoa,
I
those
think
guys are making out over there. Whoa.
you probably get more of an audience.
I mean, people would probably be a little uncomfortable because of
I know which one
society.
I would go watch.
Like, you know, I guess it doesn't all have to be conflict all the time.
Right. No, listen. And you know what? I think this goes back way to the beginning of what we were saying. There's a balance. Good and evil don't exist outside of each other. They have to exist with each other, right? So, I mean, you know, I don't know how I got to that, but I'm just saying, you know, has to exist together.
Yeah. So, you know, we're getting towards the end of the show, but it sounded like you had
Oh,
something
wow.
additional besides gratitude that you felt like was something that you wanted to share while we were interviewing you. What's the
Well,
what's the other big thing?
I think it's related, and it's something I was discussing earlier, and that is comparing comparison in general. I think that we are conditioned to compare ourselves to things that are outside of ourselves, whatever that might be. People who are pursuing the same career path that we're pursuing, people who are pursuing the same woman that we're pursuing, whatever it might be, we compare ourselves. And I think, you know, that's just destructive as all hell, you know, because you are not that other thing that you're comparing yourself to, whether it be a person or a situation or whatever. You know, you are you in the moment that you're in. And again, you got to be grateful for that. But I guess you said there are things, it's part of my philosophy. When I see people who are comparing themselves to something and feeling miserable from it, I just try to point it out. I try to say, hey, this is what you're doing. You know, you're comparing yourself to something that's not you. What's the purpose of that? Why would you do that? You know, and it's just one of those things that I feel like is simple, but I see a lot of people struggle with.
You know, it's very interesting. I was having a conversation, you know, kind of adjacent to this the other day, with a metaphor that I've used before. You know, like if you put a pot of water on the stove, you know, and you set it to boil, um, there are more bubbles that are going to come up from the bottom of this bubbling cauldron than there is surface area, right? So, you know, let's say you can get 1,000 bubbles at a time. Well, the next 1,000 are going to come up behind it, and the next 1,000 are going to come up behind it, and this is how things happen. You can't get 10,000. There's not enough surface area in the pot. The surface area of the pot's this big, and we're only going to be able to get so many bubbles at a time. And one bubble goes, and then the other bubble comes up behind it. But so often we have this sort of notion, a really like sort of silly notion that like the only way for anybody around us to succeed is for us all to succeed equally at the exact same time, so it's fair. But it's just impossible for that to happen. And really the nature,
that was interesting. I was wondering where you're going with that, but that's interesting.
yeah, the nature of the thing is that like, well, somebody's got to be first.
Right.
And then that actually paves the way for the next one
Interesting.
behind it, which paves the way for the next one behind it. And if you are sitting there trying to stop the first layer of bubbles from getting to the top, you're screwing up your own ability to get to the top. You're causing traffic. You're
Right.
causing a log jam where none of the bubbles are going to be able to get to the top because they can't all go at the same time. You know, it's got to be layer upon layer upon layer as these
Very
bubbles keep
interesting.
rising. And, you know, I think it's really hard for us sometimes, you know, not to go, well, like, you know, let's say my brother Cody, you know, he's a very successful filmmaker. And I remember when I was younger, you know, there was moments of time where I had some, you know, I like, honestly, you know, I've always been pretty good about these kind of feelings, but, you know,
Right.
some minor feelings of like,
Moments. Yeah, listen, you're only human.
Yeah. My younger brother is going to like, I've been trying to succeed in the entertainment business for a long time, you know, and I've succeeded in many ways, but for myself, you know, it's always what you're measuring yourself to. So it's like, you know, succeeding as much as you.
But on the other side, you were probably super duper happy for him.
Yeah.
And when you realize, I can decide which feeling am I going to go with? Am
Well,
I going to be jealous or am I going to be grateful and
and
happy?
exactly. And this was the beginning of me seeing that sort of bubble analogy where I was
Yeah,
like, well, I hoped, because it was the natural order of things that, my father ahead of me and me ahead of them. And here we
right,
go,
right,
the
right.
order that we came into
The
the world,
natural order.
things would bubble in that order. But then when
Right.
things weren't necessarily bubbling in that order, I had to say, well, maybe it's Cody first, and then Shane, and
Right.
then me, and
Whatever it is,
I
it is.
can't
Yeah.
sit there. What am I going to do? Sit here and energetically be mad that
Right.
I want him to succeed on
Right.
some level.
Exactly.
As I see the one, that one bubble getting there first, it seems like I'm like losing the race, or
Right.
I'm not doing as well as
There
the
you
other
go.
people.
No need to compare. There you go. That's
Exactly, but
exactly it.
it's not about that. It's a much more organic process, and
Right.
and it can't be everybody evenly progressing at the exact same speed at the exact same moment. And
Exactly.
invariably, it is, I think I've talked about many times before, Cody reaching various spiritual plateaus that open doors for me with my family, or open doors
Yeah, absolutely.
in conversation, and I'm sure
Sure.
I've done the same thing for him at various times, whether I knew it or not,
Right.
as I realized something and I said something to him in a conversation and he's able to go and take that and do something with it. That's
Right.
happened so many times. And it's allowing for the progress of the others sometimes that gives you the ability to then progress.
Right.
It's a we're all leaning on each other
Right.
to really truly progress. And if we stop that progress, if we halt the progress of the whole system, it hurts us all.
Hurts
You know,
everybody. Right.
it hurts everybody.
It's
And
all
so
collective. Yeah,
it's
we always
not a
talk about
good
that.
thing at all to be
Right.
comparing that speed, because
Right.
it is a unique journey that everybody's having. And who's to say first or second or third or fourth, it's like, that's not what it's about.
Totally. So listen, I know we got to wrap it up. Before we go, I have one request.
Okay.
And I don't think we've ever made a request before.
Yeah.
I know we have our regular viewers, Ninja and Taylor, and now we have Sunshine and Angela. Um, and man, we love you guys so much. But I would be very grateful to see who the other viewers are, and just to say love from wherever you're from. If you're from New York, say love from New York. I would just love to see one comment from each person, an intentional, energetic experiment, because we love you. We love our
I love
viewers.
it too.
We love people listening to us banter back and forth and respond by, you know, saying, "Wow, that made sense. You guys made sense." So,
And I got on the horn a little bit with our matriarch Nancy of the Rams Network.
oh yeah,
Nancy has been from one ailment to another. She literally just got out of surgery this past weekend, and GoFundMe's for treatments and so many different things. And and she's still in it to win it, and like, just give me a second to get my breath and whatnot. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, if we have anybody out there in the world who listens to this show and who enjoys what we do and wants to get in on helping us to promote the show and get it out there while we wait for our matriarch to fully recover from these ailments. It's been 8 months of her dealing with one thing after another, and and her intentions are so good. But
yeah.
if you have any interest in helping to be a part of the show and helping to get the word out about what we do, so we can get to speak to more people, please reach out and let us know. Because like I said, every time I talk to Nancy, she's just like, I'm hulking up, and I'm like, I don't know, you need to kind of recover maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
before we press Nancy, maybe we can get our own little thing going within our realm of all of our people who help support us all. But yes, Michael's absolutely right. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you guys, especially everybody who comments and whatnot. But we do know how many of you guys are watching at home and not participating in the comments section and whatnot. And you don't have to do that in order to
No, not at
send
all.
us the love. We so appreciate it, and we see your
Thank you.
doing and
Thank you
whatnot.
for answering my request. I
Oh,
totally
thank you,
appreciate it.
Carrie Ann. We so appreciate
We
it.
got lots of love. I really.
It's very nice, and we love doing this. We love being able to share these stories with you guys, and you know, in our hearts and the hearts of all the people that we know, and it's just so fun.
If you're interested, by the way, I'm just
Mhm.
going to jump in here because I had this all set up. Reach out to me and I can share some of these with you. This is the 2013. I'm going to just go through the 2014. So in 2014, um, as I shot the calendar each year, I was offered different thing. So I was offered this paintball park as a location, and it was amazing. They had like blown out airplanes and tanks and like really, really cool stuff. So, again, as this calendar grew, it organically became something amazing. Shelley Scarlett is a personality from New York Comic Con, cosplayer. She and I became friends through the calendar. And then the last year that I did the calendar in 2016, I did it in a place that was called NY Zombie Apocalypse, which was this immersive interactive experience you would go into, and it would be like you'd be fighting these zombies with not paintball, but like laser tag guns, and there'd be these people coming after you. It was such an insane experience. But through the calendar, I got to meet so many people and do so many things, and I wanted to show some of the imagery. Again, if you guys like that stuff, contact me and I can show you some more of it. I'm eventually going to revive the whole thing. I think it's still a vital concept.
I
So,
think it is a
and
vital
then,
concept.
and then we got Abby sending her love from Ireland, and we've got Julie sending her love from across the table.
Yes, I blew her a kiss already. Well,
Nice.
thank you, Michael Zinn, for being
Well,
such a
thank you.
fabulous guest. I've always wanted to have you on the show. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad we could
Yeah, I
finally
appreciate it.
get our schedules together and get you on here. But you were as wonderful a guest as I imagined you would be. And
Cool.
I'm really excited for next week as we continue our journey with the live stream of consciousness. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Peace.